All right, guys, welcome back. So before we get into the video, I wanted to say a huge thank you. If you did not check the community tab on the channel, a huge thank you to Dylan Baldwin for the new logo for both the, I guess you would call it the profile picture here on YouTube and the cover photo as well on my channel. If you want to, just click on my channel real quick and you can see the new logos on there. Dylan Baldwin, I highly encourage everybody to give him a follow. DB67 Racing on Instagram. An absolutely badass logo that he put together out of nowhere, man. I just got a random message last night on Instagram with a new logo for the channel. And more than likely, those are going to be what is on the eventual shirts, the eventual merchandise for this channel. I'm not planning on doing any of that until I get to about 5,000 subscribers. Right now, we're about 3,500, but that's been my plan all along. 5,000 subscribers, will come out with some merchandise here for the YouTube channel. And more than likely, it's going to be those logos that Dylan made and sent to me last night that you could see on the channel right now. If you just go click on my channel, the profile picture and the cover photo, they are absolutely so cool. The little marker there in the R, very creative. And Dylan, if you're watching this video, man, thank you so much for putting those together and sending them to me last night. So let's get into this video. So if you wonder why people do not like Donny Schatz, this right here is going to be one of the main reasons that people point to not liking Donny Schatz. 2015 is easily the most dominant year in the modern era of sprint car racing. An absolutely unbelievable season that will probably, I can almost certainly guarantee this will never happen again, no matter what happens to the Outlaws, no matter what happens with High Limit, who goes where. This will never happen again in the history of sprint car racing. It was the greatest year put together by anybody in the last, I would say, 20 seasons at least. Right? So before we get into the numbers for Schatz, let's look at the roster that the World of Outlaws had in 2015 and just give you an idea of who he was racing against, because it was a really good field. A lot of people say these were some of the best years of the Outlaw Tour, right? I mean, I don't know if that's true or not. I think the early 2000s had the deepest field, but this was a really, really good field of cars that Donny was going against all season long. Shane Stewart was driving the Kyle Larson Racing #2 car. He ended up with 9 wins on the year. Brad Sweet was in the 49 car for, as we know, Casey Kane Racing. He had 5 wins on the year. Darren Pittman was his teammate in the 9 car, 5 wins for him. Kerry Madsen in the Canaric Racing 29. He only had 1 win on the season. Joey Saldana was in the Modern #71M, 3 wins for him. Paul McMahon in the CJB Motorsports 51 for 3 wins. Jason Sides in his own #7S had 1 win. And then David Gravel was driving the Mondak Portable 7. Logan Short, obviously, in the 1S. Jason Johnson was in his 41 car, but as you can see, there was an asterisk there. He was injured in a crash at the Placerville Speedway, fractured his back, and was out of the car for a while. Had Jason Myers in the car, had Jamie Veal in the car. Jason Johnson was supposed to run the season full-time. The car did, but he did not, so an asterisk next to him. Jacob Allen in the 1A, and then Craig Kinzer also got injured that year in his 11K car. That was the season that Mikey Kemper, the crew chief, would drive for about, 10, 15 races, I believe, that season. And so that was the roster for the Outlaws in 2015. Now, let's see the numbers that Donny Schatz put up. 75 starts that year, 31 wins. 31. He won 31 races that year. 60 top 5 finishes in 75 starts. 70 top 10 finishes in 75 starts. He missed the top 10 5 times the entire season. 643 laps led on the year. 0 DNFs and a plus-minus of 236 positions. He passed 236 cars in feature action in 2015. So, obviously, those numbers are absolutely ridiculous. They are astronomical numbers. Now, here's some other things that I want to talk about here with this video. He went backwards in 6 races the entire year. The whole season, he only went backwards in 6 main events out of 75. You guys can say what you want about that in the comment section below, but that is literally unbelievable. An average finish of 3.1 positions, 3.1. He finished 3rd on average each and every night against that field of cars on a consistent basis for 75 straight races. He had an average start of 6.5 on the year. I do not know what the format was that year for the Outlaws, if it was the same thing, how it was straight up in the heat races after qualifying, if there was a dash, I'm not sure. But either way, incredible numbers on both of those, especially the average finish of 3.1. At one point in time, he won 5 races in a row between races number 33 through race number 37. We'd have to look back through the history books and see when another time recently that somebody won 5 World of Outlaws races in a row. But Donny Schatz did it in 2015. He won the championship that year by 544 points, which was the most points between first and second since 1990 when Steve Kinser won the championship. I want to say it was by 5, off the top of my head, 589 points in 1990 by Steve Kinser. So Shane Stewart did finish second in points, but almost 600 behind Donny Schatz that year. He had 31 wins, as we mentioned earlier. That was the most wins in a World of Outlaws season since 1996, when Mark Kinser won 35 times in that one year in 1996. And that is a 41% win total on the year. So Donny Schatz nearly was winning half of the races in 2015. He was on the lead lap of every single race the entire year. Never went a lap down, never had a DNF. He was on the lead lap for every single race that year. He also led 26% of the laps that season. I want to say it was 2,434 laps total that year. He led 643 of them, which equates out to about 26% of the laps were led by the Tony Stewart Racing 15 car. And then this is probably the craziest one of them all. From race 25 through the end of the season at race number 75, Donny Schatz finished first or second in 38 races. 38 races. Now do you understand why people boo Donny Schatz still to this day? I think the booing is getting a little bit less here over the last couple of years, but that is why nobody liked Donny Schatz, even though his t-shirt trailer, the line was unbelievably long each and every night. People were still buying his stuff, but he'd come onto the racetrack and people would boo him every single time because he was finishing first or second 38 times in a span of 50 races. And if I added third place on there, it'd probably be around 45 times. I think he only finished in that stretch. I think he finished outside the top 10 like twice. And obviously, we already know that he only finished outside the top 10 5 times on the entire season, right? So unbelievable stuff from Donny Schatz in 2015. Some other things we want to talk about here as well. He won the Knoxville Nationals that year. He also finished 6th at the Kings Royal, which doesn't sound incredible, but he did lead 31 of the 40 laps in that race. I don't know what happened to him, but he started second, finished 6th, led 3/4 of the race. Unfortunately, slipped back a couple spots. I don't know what happened there. He also finished second at the National Open at Williams Grove that year. He won the Gold Cup Race of Champions at Silver Dollar, and it was his 6th championship of his career. Obviously, we know that he has 10 now, but as of right then, at this point in 2015, that was his 6th overall championship to his credit, right? So I don't know. What do you guys think about this? This is something I've been wanting to talk about for a long time. I could probably do, and like I said, this is for the modern era. I could go back to the year that Steve Kinser won 54 races. I think that was in the early 90s, maybe late 80s. We'll have to go back and check, but maybe I could do a video about that for Steve Kinser and show his numbers from that year. But looking back, so Schatz won 31 races that year. I think Steve Kinser won 30 in 2004 or 3 maybe. But looking at his top 10 and top 5 totals, Donny Schatz had him beat. I want to say that Kinser missed the top 10 12 times in that season, and Donny only missed it 5, right? So this is easily the most dominant season in the modern era of sprint car racing. Maybe we can go back and do one for the later era, back in the day type of thing, and see what the numbers were back then. It's also fun to see who was on the roster for the series that year and see who he was going up against. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. But I already knew about this season. A guy I work with right now, Anthony Carini, he's the timing and scoring guy for High Limit. This was his first year on the Outlaw Tour, and he was the PR guy that year. Imagine writing 31 different stories about Donny Schatz winning. How hard would it be to come up with new little, headlines for that year? Donny Schatz wins again. Donny Schatz wins again. Donny Schatz wins another Knoxville Nationals. He wins how hard would that be to be a PR guy that year and try to stay creative when a guy wins that many races? I mean, it is absolutely unbelievable. Donny Schatz, in my opinion, and this could get some flack, but he is #1 driver of all time in sprint car racing, especially just looking at this year right here. I mean, it's hard to deny that he is not one of, if not the best driver of all time in sprint car racing. You could say Steve Kinsey, you could say Sammy Swindell or Doug Wolfgang or whatever. But in my opinion, which I'm entitled to, if you want to have your own opinion, get your own whiteboard and get your own YouTube channel. I'm going with Donny Schatz. I think he's the best of all time. And this is one of the years that kind of solidified that legacy. I was actually at the race this year at that Placerville Speedway when Jason Johnson did get hurt, and Darren Pittman also got hurt in that crash. I was there for a race at Placerville, and I believe Donny Schatz did win that one. So I was around for these times, right? I mean, 2015 is really not that long ago. It's less than 10 years ago that we saw a season like this from Donny Schatz. So once again, I want to hear you guys' thoughts down in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about this. Also, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and comment down below, and we'll talk to you guys again here very soon.